Okay, so hello.
Hello.
Sera and Frankie here.
Hi.
From Unsung Lilly, interviewing Alex Louise,
Yay.
which is very exciting. So, introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Alex Louise and I'm a singer-songwriter.
So, describe what your music sounds like.
With my music, I try to keep it very simple. I basically write pop songs, but what I try to do is keep the production quite raw, quite cut back, quite organic, so that it's just all about the melody and the lyrics, and it's in every song there's some kind of story there, so that's what I try to do. I'm a singer-songwriter and keep it simple.
Cool.
Yeah.
And who would you say are your main influences with that?
Well, I listen to so many different styles of music. Probably I'd say for the stuff I write, the whole Carole King and Beverly Craven was a big influence when I was younger. Looking at more modern people, Adele, Ed Sheeran, Jason Mraz, John Mayer, so that kind of stuff. But then I've got really diverse tastes. Like I love Motown and I love old school stuff, so Marvin Gaye and Ray Charles and all that kind of stuff. And then I love all the kind of poppy, rocky stuff. So yeah,
I'm a mixture.
I'm a mixture, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you get into the writing and singing as well?
Well, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, basically, and lived basically in the middle of the woods in Surrey, and just outside a little village called Sheer. And I don't know, I just spent a lot of time singing, and you have something to do, I suppose. And I had this keyboard, this really old school keyboard, and I had all the, it has all the demo songs on, so it's like Autumn Leaves and I can't remember else, Saving All My Love for You, and it's got like these instrumental versions. And that's where I started. I'd sort of write to those songs, my own songs. Really silly stuff, like I was about 8.
Got to start somewhere.
There was one that said something like, it was about this girl who was this traveller coming through a village, and all the people in the village used to laugh at her and say she's got fleas. And that was one of the...
Is that based on personal experience? Was that a song about anyone you knew? Or?
No. My favourite one, oh my God, what was the one about ice cream? I sing it all the time. What was it? Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, so this is one I wrote. It goes, maybe I will, maybe I won't, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I will eat all of the chocolate ice cream.
I could see that in a song.
Yeah. What is that song though? Because that was obviously written. Yeah.
So that would come from the demos.
So yeah, so the demo
keyboard.
would be on the keyboard, and then I'd write the song, a
Just
new
stick
song.
the melody, it's fine.
And most of the time I didn't know the actual original song, so I
claimed it to be your own.
I think it was my own.
Copywriting issues there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they let you off being 8 years old.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And then I used to force all my family to sit and watch me sing the songs. So that's kind of where I started, big time.
First audience. Family.
Yeah. And then I only moved about a year ago to London, big city. It's a bit scary. Do you know what I found the most exciting thing about moving to the city was the fact that you could just go out your door and you can buy milk.
You don't need to.
You don't have to
buy,
You don't have to drive. You don't have to drive for like 10
country.
minutes. Yeah, in where I lived, it was like literally there was nothing. So if I wanted to go to the shop, I had to get my mum to drive me, or yeah. But you can just walk out your flat, and there's a shop where you can buy milk. That is the high life. That is.
Very good. What is your favourite thing about what you do?
Probably when you hear a song, when you get to a stage when you've written a song where you're like, wow, this is cool. So you have this idea. Generally I have an idea when I'm driving, and then that idea suddenly turns into a track. And this might take days, it might take months. I mean, there's some stuff where I've finished it a year later, so it's, it might take a long time, but when you finally have that song and you listen back and you're like, oh, cool. I like that moment. Yeah, that's probably my favourite thing. But I love performing obviously as well. But yeah, if I had, now I'm thinking performing. Oh, what is my favourite thing? But yeah, I think we'll go with that. But performing is like there, on par.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, maybe talk a little bit about the writing process, how you go about writing.
Oh, okay. So, like I said, sometimes it's when I'm driving. A lot of the time it's when I'm driving. That's actually how I wrote Undercover, my single. I was driving along and God knows what happened. I just started singing it. And I was like, ah! And I always have my iPhone and record just record a thing. And I've got all these amazing recordings of me just like, you can just hear the car and I'm going, you said I'd never find another all this stuff. But yeah, so generally it's when I'm driving, and then then I work on it at home with the piano. I've started writing with a guy called Sera Frankie, who is my guitarist, and we work really well together. So generally I'll go to him and say I've got this idea, and then we'll finish it together. Sometimes he'll come to me and say I've got this guitar part. Sometimes I just sit down with the piano, like there's a song called Don't Talk About Love, which I literally just sat down and wrote. But then I always tend to get Sam involved because I tend to try and make things too complicated. So I try and put in all these fancy chords. It doesn't need to be fancy, it's just simple. So there's lots of different ways of writing for me. But generally it just comes to me whilst I don't sort of try to write. Really.
You don't sit down and go, I'm going to write a song.
No,
right now.
it just happens. Yeah. Sometimes I just sit down and play piano, and I'll generally start by just playing through all the songs I've written, or there'll be one song, like I've got this song called Into the Night, which will never be heard. No one will ever hear it because it's not that good. But I just really enjoy playing it, and I always start with that song. I start playing it, and then I'll like change, something will happen, someone will take over, and there we go. Yeah.
Oh, so if the right person was to come along and be like, right, would you just like to do a little tour with me around the world? Who would be the right person?
Oh, I was just thinking Bruno Mars, because generally with support bands they want you to be quite different to the thingy, don't you? The headliner, don't you? So I could open for Bruno Mars, couldn't I?
Cool. Yeah.
Because obviously, like, I couldn't open for Adele because we're too similar, like female singer-songwriter. Yeah. Even though I think Adele is absolutely amazing. So maybe someone like Bruno Mars, because I think he's amazing and I'm like addicted to his album right now. But yeah, there's so many great artists out at the moment. Emily Sandé is awesome, but again, might be too similar. I don't know.
Okay, so let's talk about the single.
Yes.
Can we talk about what the single is about? What the song's about?
You can. Imagine you are breaking up with a man or a boy, and all the things that you could say at that moment. Thank you very much for being with me the last few months, years, days. All those things you could say, or you could say, hit the road and all that. Imagine all the things that could be said in that breakup situation, but instead that person says, do you know what? You're never going to find someone as good as me. Oh. What?
Definitely.
Sorry, say that again. You're never going to find someone as good as me. Right.
Had you broken
now
up
I
with
know
him?
I think so. But this is not necessarily real. But imagine.
Then you realise why you broke up with that person at that
imagine
particular
that.
moment.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But then the whole song is basically saying, there's like the first lyric is something like it is. You said there's no one quite like me. So he's saying there's no one quite like me, and then I'm saying you better open your eyes and see, because there's a million just like you, not good enough for me.
Yeah. Cool. I like that.
Yeah.
She's
giving
a
it
bit
all that.
sassy.
Yeah, sassy.
Girl
But,
power.
anyway, so that's that one. That was the question, wasn't it? So there we go.
Yeah.
Answered.
And the video. What about the video? I love the video. Where did the inspiration for that come from?
The video, yeah.
It's good.
Well, I was trying to do something different, and I kind of didn't want to have the whole smoochy, relationship-y, real thing in there. I was just like, I don't want to do that. So I was like, how can I do something that's different, that will, make people look at it, or make people remember it? It's the main thing. And also, so I don't have to be there snogging someone's face off, basically. Although I suppose you wouldn't in this video, but anyway. So I thought puppets would be cool. So I found this puppet maker called Jessica Kay, and she was just amazing. Like, basically I had this basic idea, I want puppets. And I said, what do I do? And she basically put the whole thing together along with Sam Bond, the videographer. And yeah, I can't believe how they got that idea that was in my head and they made it work.
It works really
Yeah.
well.
It works, yeah.
Really, really well.
I love it.
And it
Very
does
good
make
idea.
people remember it, because like
It does.
every time if we say, oh, we're gigging with Alex Louise, they say, oh, the one with the puppets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I know.
It's
People say it to me all the time. Oh yeah, you're the girl with the puppets, and
And it does look like you.
it does.
Yeah.
Well, that's the idea. It was supposed to look like me. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be made to me. And should I say something really
Yeah.
funny? Right. So the male puppet is not based on anyone in particular, but someone has pointed out it looks identical to a really good friend of mine called Steve Rogers. Can I say his name? Which I'm so embarrassed about,
It
because
does look a lot like
it's,
It does.
he's identical. Yeah, he's not supposed to be Steve Rogers, but it is funny that it looks identical to Steve. Oh, the other thing is actually when Jessica, the puppet lady, started actually talking about the reason for the puppets, I was like, oh my god, it makes perfect sense to have the whole puppet thing, because in the song it's like being controlled by, like one of the lines is, that was your last chance of control.
Yeah.
I gave you one last hold, and I was like, oh my gosh, it actually makes sense. So I kind of like, even without realising it, picked something that kind of worked with the song, which, yeah. So maybe I'm more of a
Just
genius
works,
than I
yeah.
am.
Well, maybe we should rewind this interview and pretend that you did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Of course, I was looking at the elements of control in
Yes.
the song.
Maybe we should. Shall we? No. Okay. You know the truth.